Hello and welcome to another episode of the Paal15 Podcast. I'm your host, Matt, and today I'm joined once again by Paal15 co-founder and CEO, Maarten. Maarten, great to have you here. How are you doing?
All good. It has been a while, so I'm looking forward to this one.
It has, yeah. It's great to have you back again. And what we're going to do today is discuss, again, one of the things we discuss most on this podcast, and that's partnerships. And I think that's because we get a load of questions in constantly from businesses and our customers who need advice and guidance on how to set up a partnership with another organization that's really going to work for them. So I wanted to pick your brains on a few partnership fundamentals for our audience, seeing as you've played a role not only in launching partnerships for our customers at Paal15, but you've got some real practical experience in setting them up for our sister company at Yaradu as well. So I guess the first question to ask is, why do businesses look for partners?
That's a very
it's
good
a big
question.
One. Big one to start with.
Yeah. There's many angles to this answer. Why companies are partnering? I think the most easy answer is that I think a lot of companies think it's easy-ish to scale via partners. So especially if they partner with companies which have big customer bases or access to a lot of customers, a lot of companies think, oh, that's handy. Let's connect with them. So I would definitely say access to customer base is one of the majority reasons. But then there's tons of other reasons, right? Like, I mean, one I very much see happening more and more is credibility. If you're a startup and you partner with a proper big name like an Accenture or a KPMG, and your name is attached to that automatically also shows that you're a more serious type of organization. So I think that's a very valid one. It can solve delivery issues. So say you are a software company and one of the biggest limitations is that you need to implement your software. Then it could be very helpful if you have partners doing that implementation for you. So implementation is a very solid one. There could also be other reasons, right? Like you could also say, hey, I'm very successful in the Benelux area. Let me find a partner which can help us move into the UK or into the Nordics or into Germany. So expanding your footprint, I think we see a lot. Especially probably in the Microsoft ecosystem is a very common thing to do. So you build a practice around Microsoft. They like it. They introduce you in other regions. Then from there you get access to your first customers. Once you have your first customers in another region, it allows you to build a team. So very proven way of partnering to extend your markets. There's also other examples of people trying to partner to talk to different type of target personas to close quicker deals. So say you're typically talking to IT to sell your solution, but then with, for example, the likes of EY or Deloitte, you're able to talk to the directors and then convince them of your solution. You bypass part of the buyer, your typical buyer. So I think that's an amazing one. I think one I like most also in Yaradu is preventing churn. So it can happen that customers at one point say, look, we're looking for a different solution. And in Yaradu's case, it's an RPA solution, right? So okay, we're moving away. Then it always helps if a partner is there and then helps them build a different business case than the business case they built themselves. So yeah, the reason for partnering, there are many.
Yeah.
But in general, and then before I go into this other long chat, in general, I think commercial reasons are the majority of reasons. So, and especially now with the economic times changing, so cost of acquisition for customers gets higher. You see a massive shift of direct businesses trying to go to market in a partner approach. So yeah, that's the majority reason I would say.
Yeah, and is that purely because the partnerships it's just more cost effective to find those new partnerships, just to find those new customers?
No, I think it's part of it's all economies of scale, right? If you have a sales engine and you need to talk to at least 150 customers a month to get to a certain conversion of new customers, that's very intense. Whereas if you tap into a customer base which has thousands of customers, and you manage to do it well, they do the sales for you, so you don't need to build this whole sales engine. That could be very efficient from a cost perspective. Managing one partner versus managing a sales team, which then needs to reach out to hundreds of customers or potential customers. It's on paper very effective.
Yeah.
That said, there's also a lot of issues with that, right? Like partnering is never a side business. You need to have full focus on it. But the theory is that it's more efficient.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then I think the other thing I'm getting from those reasons you went through is that a lot of them are kind of using a partnership as a way of proving your relevancy, whether it's relevancy through that kind of credibility of having a big name there, or being able to use that partner's knowledge to tap into a new audience.
Yeah, for sure. And I think partners can play a very strong role in also validating new offers or helping you think of, hey, what type of offer should you adjust your offer? I think one mistake we see quite a lot happening is also that, especially with more startup companies, that they think then, if a partner starts selling my solution, it's all good, and let's see if it works. And they think that they have a partner helping them with product market fit. And I think that's some of the dynamics which we don't see work.
So just to stop you there, because that's a really good part, so jumping off point into our next kind of part of this conversation, right? Because we've gone through all of the really sound theoretical reasons for partnering, but we do find it that a lot of customers find it really difficult because they are getting kind of common mistakes wrong. And I suppose that first one that you're talking about there is something we've discussed internally many times, is that product market fit.
Yeah, product market fit is, I mean, there's 1 million definitions of product market fit, but then product market fit being, hey, I have a dedicated market and then I can sell this more or less at scale. Once you've reached that, then it gets easier getting into partnering. But what we've seen a lot lately, and also in some of our customers' examples, they have strong presence in say finance and banking, and they think then, with that probably we can go into health, and they target a partner. It's like, hey, can you help us go into the health sector? Yeah, and then the partner is gonna say, but how do we do this? Because there's no track record, there's no credibility. You don't have a proven solution. You only have something which works in a different sector. Customers typically don't think about these type of things. So they would say, I replicate what I have in finance, and then try to make that work in health via partner. Yeah, that's not something I think is long-term successful.
Yeah,
but I can be wrong. But then I've not seen it work yet.
There's another thing that we see partnerships fail because of, which is not understanding the two-way street of partnerships. I think it'd be great if you could kind of explain that concept a little bit more to the audience.
Like the two-way street is exactly what it is, right? We have a lot of conversations with different type of companies. And more with Paal15, we have more the early stage conversations. And every time we talk to earlier stage companies, they say, can you help us introduce us to XYZ partner? And I always ask, what are you going to offer to them? And then it's always the same answer. It's like, but this product is amazing. And I think this is fairly illustrative for most of the organizations we work with, which haven't set up partner yet. They always think from their own perspective. We have an amazing product. Everybody wants a product. So I'm going to partner with somebody who's going to sell my product. But it has nothing to do with that. Sure, you need to have a good product. But then you just also think, okay, from a partner's perspective, what's the benefit of this partner if he starts selling my solution? And is it selling, or is it taking your solution and building all type of services around this? And I think most organizations tend to forget that. Like, hey, what is the proposition around it? Is there a mutual proposition? Why would a partner want to sell this or resell this or build a practice around it? And to give you an example with our own company, Yaradu. So Yaradu is an automation platform. And the reason why we really want to partner with organizations is not because we think we have an amazing product, they're going to sell that. It's because we as Yaradu understand that we need experts in each industry to help us. So we have a lot of traction in healthcare, and then we have an amazing partner in healthcare which is helping us, which helps understand or helps the organization understand what is process automation. What do you need to? How do you prep for process automation? What are the benefits of it? What are the difficulties around it? How do you make sure that there's governance around it? So it's not that we go to them and say, "Hey, can you sell this robot?" No, for them it's like, "Oh, this is an amazing opportunity to help organizations in a different way. Let's take that automation platform you provide and let me build a whole set of practices around it." And then you have a proper solid proposition. So it never starts with, "Oh, we have this amazing tool, please start selling it." It's like, "Hey, what's the opportunity for someone else?" And then there's different opportunities for organizations, right? It could be that they have that they want to earn more money, or that have a lack of a portfolio, or they cannot service their customers end to end, or they want to move into different markets. So my one piece of advice to any other startup, scale up was like, "Hey, if you want to go into partner, what's the proposition? What's the story? Why would partners want to work with you? And what's the offering they're going to put to market?" Like that's the biggest thing we see go wrong.
Yeah. It's finding the balance of the opportunities for your business and then the opportunities that the partner can gain as well from partnering with you, right?
Exactly.
And that also sometimes means, and this is another thing we see with mistakes that some partnerships make, is that picking the right kind of partner is pretty crucial there, right? And that sometimes means not always going for the biggest name that you can, which I can, understandably so. A lot of organizations think, "Oh, let's get a massive name partner because that lends us loads of credibility," and that's great. But sometimes for the kind of achievements you're trying to make, maybe a smaller partner is going to be the better fit, right?
Yeah. I come across that so many times, right? Like, look at our partner list. And then they have all these amazing names. Vodafone, British Telecom, Norway Telenor, KPN, like all amazing partners. And I ask, "Hey, how many customers do they actually provide?" "Yeah, none yet." Then we have signed a partnership agreement with no commit, nothing, right? Like, so it's not easy signing those deals. So you need to put a lot of work before you get deals with Vodafone or British Telecom or whatever big organization you work with. There's a thorough process, time consuming. Now we see a lot that then software companies say, "But we have the deal and now sit back and relax. The work is over." That's not how it works. So my advice would always be like, really look at why you want to partner. Like, what's the ultimate benefit of that? And then what's the proposition there? And then start selecting partners. And our experience is that if you have a more local or more niche type of partner, then working closely with them to make them transacting, so make sure that they actually provide you with customers, the right thing to do. And I had a very nice chat with one of my business friends around this, and is a Dutch software company in workspace, so that they simplify the workspace, and they switched a couple of times this approach, exactly this. Get big international customers first, go global strategy. It didn't work. Then they went back to go more local. So smaller organizations where you can work with closely with people also caring on that side. So typically the CEO or the managing director of a local partner work actively, get the learnings before you start scaling out again. So and we tend to call it internally. I'm not sure if that's even common terminology, but they're more spear fishing rather than whale hunting. Spear fishing typically is easier. And you learn a lot more from it. Now it has less scale. So whatever solution you have, you might take a different strategy. Our experience is also for Yara spearfishing is much easier than whale hunting.
What I'm getting a sense of is that having a successful partnership is, the proposition is absolutely crucial. But then once you've kind of got to that stage of that partnership, it's a relationship game, right? So managing kind of expectations and commitments and relationships between the two organizations. How do you manage those relationships? And especially if kind of your key contact maybe leaves or leaves that organization, what do you do? How do you keep the partnership alive?
How do you keep the partnership alive? Yeah. I think it is an amazing. There's this very thin line, which is an interesting thin line between the one that business is always a personal thing, right? If there's no connection, if you don't know each other as an organization and you meet people and then there's no click, very difficult getting a partnership off the ground. So heavily dependent on partnerships or on the relationships. At the same time, if the business model is not supportive, you can have the best relationships in the world, then yet still you're not going to sell. So a successful partnership consists of both. At the one end, you need to make sure that you know a lot of people, know the right people, and it starts always at the top, right? Like the more, and then probably you have one or two actual sponsors which really like working with you, and that's fine. And then prove it to them, make them enthusiastic, and then make sure that they introduce you to other people within the organization, and that support gets wider. So the more people you know, the better it technically is, and then the less dependent you are if people leave. At the same time, just good relationships doesn't make it sell. Sure. So what we've also seen, and then again, and that's very close from a Yaradu perspective, that we said, like, look, we want to have partners which also where the business model supports the work, because otherwise it's not going to fly. To give you an example, with Yaradu, the biggest issue we have is the software needs to be implemented. It's an automation platform, and just like UiPath, which is market leader, and Microsoft Power Platform, this software needs to be implemented, and it's not easy, for organizations to implement it, because one, you need knowledge of processes, you need to understand the business, and you need to have understanding of the tools. So it's not one skill set. So for Yaradu, we said, like, look, let's find implementation partners. And the business model of most implementation partners is on an hourly basis. Like, I want to make sure that I implement this process for you. It's going to take a week of work times 200 euros. So getting you up to speed is going to be 8,000 or 10,000 euros. Whereas with Yaradu, the whole idea was like getting you to market very quickly. So speed. What we never realized was that if you do things quicker, for Yaradu it is good, for the end customer is good, but for a partner they make less money. So we really were looking for partners to help us implement, and it never worked because they said, yeah, but then with the other tools I can make more money because it's more work and it's more complex. But that didn't work out. Even in organizations where we had really good relationships and contacts. So it didn't work out. So we moved that back and said, like, look, let's go for a different type of partners which provide a lot of contextual knowledge of industries and of processes, and then let us then do the work, and then that really got us flying. But then, like I said, right, like we had the good contacts in the right partner with the right partners, and it didn't fly because the business model was not there. So it's this very thin line, like personal relationship make everything easier, and yet you need to have a business model to support that.
Okay. So you have to get the proposition in place and the business model aligned, and then work on the relationships after that.
Yeah. And then there are two different things, because probably part of this audience would think, but then part of the proposition is also the business model, and they are very right. But then it's not a given that everybody thinks in this way. So making sure that the financials add up, and then there's a solid financial business model on the back of a proposition, for sure, a good thing to remember.
Absolutely, definitely. I think what's been great about this is, while talking through all of the problems and the most common problems that people are facing with setting up partnerships, we've kind of spoken a lot about the solutions that they can bring as well, and the different ways to think about it, which is really interesting. And I think we could talk about this subject for a lot longer, but we've been going for a while now, and maybe we'll save it for a future episode where we can kind of come back and talk about partnerships a little bit more.
Yeah, I would love to. So if there's is there more podcasts on partnerships, then let me know. Now, partnerships I find absolutely amazing, right? Like I said, if done well, then there's so much traction you can get as a company. At the same time, if you don't do it well, you can spend so much time and effort on making a partnership work, and you end up with nothing. And we've seen that, especially in early days, Paal15, when we started out in this whole ecosystem around the company back, Odin, Parallels, which was a sort of cloud distribution platform for all the big telcos and hosters. we saw so many smaller ISVs and software companies spending a lot of time on getting partnerships in place. And finally, they had the partnership in place, and then there were no end customers coming in, and they didn't make it ultimately. So yeah, we've seen that all from the get-go of Paal15. And it's a very interesting dynamics. So indeed, next time there's anything to talk about partnerships, let me know. I'm happy to join the conversation.
We'll bring you straight back, of course. Well, thank you, Maarten, for joining us and for sharing all of your experience and knowledge again.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. And anytime. So hope to talk soon.
If you've enjoyed this episode of the Paal15 podcast, please do like, subscribe, or review on your platform of choice. And if you have any questions for us or want to know more about the work we do at Paal15, visit paal15.com. As always, thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next time.